Here is a question that sounds ridiculously simple until you realize your life depends on it. Why do you cook? Look at your dog right now, happily tearing into a piece of raw bone. You probably assume that you do not eat like that simply because you're highly civilized, or because a hot, seasoned meal just tastes infinitely better. You view cooking as a culinary art, a cultural lifestyle choice, or maybe just a tedious daily chore. But let me completely shatter that comforting illusion. You do not cook because it tastes good. You cook because you're a biologically crippled organism that will literally die without a flame. If you were forced to eat exactly what a chimpanzee eats, you could stuff your stomach completely full of raw, fibrous roots and uncooked meat, and every single cell in your body would still actively scream in starvation. You would slowly starve to death on a full stomach. Every other animal on Earth survives perfectly fine on raw food. Lions, gorillas, every scavenger. They eat raw and thrive, but not you. Your wonderfully weak jaw, your tiny teeth, and your remarkably short digestive tract are not accidental design flaws. They are the physical fossil record of an inescapable biological trap. Your overgrown brain demands pre-processed heat. You can never go back. Let's rewind to the before. To understand this biological trap, you must witness the sheer misery of the world before the flame. About 2 to 3 million years ago, your earliest ancestors were not glorious hunters. They were scavengers, trapped in a brutal, endless loop. They ran the exact dietary playbook that modern chimpanzees run today. Raw leaves, raw roots, raw insects, raw, gray bone marrow, scooped from shattered legs abandoned by lions. Raw food is not just unpleasant. It is an agonizing full-time occupation. When you eat fibrous plants, your jaw must mechanically grind that dense material for hours just to swallow it. Imagine the bone-deep ache in your jaw. Picture chewing tough, bitter bark until your gums bleed from sunrise to sunset, and extracting practically zero usable calories for your effort. Pre-cooking hominids spent nearly 50% of their entire waking lives doing nothing but chewing. Half of their existence was consumed by this single grueling mechanical task. There was no time to socialize. There was no energy to think. There was no surplus fuel to build a larger brain. Every single calorie your gut wasted grinding through that difficult raw fiber was a calorie your body never got to use for anything else. The hominid mind was locked inside an inescapable energy deficit, held hostage by the sheer physical demand of processing raw material. This was not a diet. It was a brutal biological prison. To understand how a simple flame liberated your species, you have to look at what heat actually does to food at a microscopic level. It is far more transformative than a culinary technique. It is a violent, beautiful biochemical hack. When you apply fire to a dense, starchy root vegetable, the extreme heat forces the tightly packed crystalline starch granules inside to absorb water and swell aggressively. This is a process called gelatinization. Picture a raw, rock-hard potato. It is a locked vault of calories that your natural enzymes can barely scratch. But hold that same potato over a roaring fire, and its rigid molecular architecture literally blooms open, unraveling into a swollen, highly accessible sponge. Heat unlocks a massive treasure trove of glucose directly into your bloodstream. Fire does something equally catastrophic and brilliant to protein. Raw animal muscle is laced with incredibly tough connective tissue, collagen, and elastin that even powerful stomach acid struggles to dismantle. Heat denatures these defensive structural proteins. It physically rips apart their complex three-dimensional shapes, unraveling them into simple, limp strands that your digestive system can effortlessly tear through. It brutally ruptures rigid plant cell walls and neutralizes natural toxins meant to poison scavengers. Cooking is, in the most literal biological sense, pre-digestion. The fire is not just making your dinner taste better. It is actively working as your external stomach. The flames are doing the exhausting chemical and mechanical labor of breaking down tough tissue. long before the food ever touches your lips. By outsourcing your digestion to a campfire, your body harvests a colossal surplus of usable calories for essentially zero metabolic cost. It took an agonizing 10-hour daily chewing sentence and slashed it to 60 minutes. It sparked an energy explosion. You bought your time about 1.8 million years ago. The fossil record shows our lineage signing the most ruthless biological contract in history. Homo erectus emerged with a fundamentally redesigned architecture, smaller teeth, weaker jaws, and crucially, a drastically shortened digestive tract. In the raw food primate world, a massive, fermenting gut is mandatory just to survive. But maintaining that huge internal plumbing system is metabolically expensive. When fire became our external stomach, that enormous digestive infrastructure was suddenly obsolete. Natural selection aggressively downsized our gut, but nature does not waste energy. It reallocates it. The surplus calories saved from not maintaining a massive colon were funneled directly upward into the most grotesque energy hoarder in your body, your brain. Despite being tiny, your brain aggressively burns through 20% of your total daily calorie budget. The biological math simply does not work for a raw food primate to maintain a brain that hungry. We traded our gut for our mind, less gut, more brain, and the flames fueled more than just biology. Step outside that shrinking digestive tract and look at the macro picture. Picture those ancient figures sitting around a glowing hearth in the pitch-black African savanna. With their caloric needs met and predators kept at bay, they suddenly had hours of non-chewing time before sleep around that flickering security perimeter. Pair bonding evolved. The household was born. Language, storytelling, and the transmission of accumulated knowledge flourished in the dark. The fire built our minds. It sparked human civilization. Fast forward to tonight. You are standing in your dark apartment at 11 p.m., feeling slightly guilty as you turn on the stove to boil water for a late-night bowl of noodles. The blue ring of the gas flame flares to life, casting a flickering light across your face. You might think you're just being lazy, indulging a modern craving in the quiet of the night. But pay attention to that exact moment. You're not just making a meal. You are participating in the oldest, most singularly human technology in the history of our species. That seemingly mundane act is a profound self-recognition moment. When you stand over that heat, you're not alone. You are repeating the exact sacred ritual that pulled your ancestors out of the wild. Without that flame, your jaw, your gut, and the massive brain you're using right now would literally not exist. Cooking is not a cultural hobby or a lifestyle choice you picked up. It is the invisible thread connecting you to a million-year-old survival script. You are not an animal that learned to cook. You are a cooked animal. Cooking is not something your species does. It is what your species is.